call the meeting to order, and I'm going to read the script for remotely conducted open meetings. Good evening. This is the open meeting of the Community Preservation Committee being held remotely consistent with Legislative Acts 2021, Chapter 20, Section 20, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This meeting is convened by Zoom. The meeting agenda is on the town website. For details on how to participate remotely, I think everybody's figured that out, and we've gotten hopefully the technical bugs out. At this point, we will not be featuring public comment. For Zoom participants, this meeting is recorded and it will be published or rebroadcast. All participation within this meeting will be visible to others. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be taken by a roll call vote. So to kick off the meeting, we need to do attendance. Sandy.
Present.
I thought he'd be angry.
Paul, can you say something?
Hello. I said I thought you'd be angry that you got up and got your calendar and then it's working.
All right, a little closer to the microphone, please.
You really can't.
Do I need to repeat the?
Nope. Nope.
You can't hear it.
That we did okay until then.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Treasurer's report.
Roll call. Treasurer's report. I have a treasurer's report, financial report, and also a letter from our treasurer who is unable to attend tonight that he asked that I read. So I will, or do you want to take a look at the financials first? She popped it
I think,
up.
why don't you read, I think as you read the letter, it follows the financials.
Okay. To John Stevens, Chairman, dated May 24th, 2022, May 2022 Treasurer's Report. The financial numbers in May Finance Report are the same as those in the April report. The differences are merely in the presentation. Warrant article numbers were added for the grants approved at the May annual town meeting. The May town meeting sections in the revenue and reserve fund areas were styled as having occurred, which he used blue tint and the blue tint and the italics were removed. The display of the May town meeting section of the carried over funds area in which there were no grants was disabled. Display of the October town meeting sections in each fund area was enabled, styled as next, which is shaded blue and italicized. It's important to keep in mind that CPA fund levels reported on town accounts and reports here are based on estimates of the actual results of the current fiscal year and state matches not yet determined. We try to successfully so far make these estimates following state guidelines and slightly on the low side so that adjustments made as fiscal time proceeds are on the upside. Please note in the bottoms, the summary section, that $900,914 is estimated to be carried over into fiscal year 2023 from prior years. Estimated annual revenue for fiscal year 2023 has reached $774,000. Grants and bond payments so far for fiscal year 2023 total $390,011. You can see on the bottom line that $1,285,009 is estimated to be available for grants from October forward. These estimates will be updated when the fiscal year 2020 ends on June 30th and the year-end books are reconciled and closed. The improved estimates are expected to be somewhat higher. You also have the chart that shows the growth and sources of CPA revenue. You can see the steady growth of the 1.5% surcharge represented by the blue bars and the variable growth of the state match shown by the green bars. Please note that the 2022 and the 2023 surcharges are estimates based on the 2020 and 2021 actual surcharge amounts. The 2023 state match is also an estimate. Actual amounts will likely be higher. I understand there may be a trustee representative from the Affordable Housing Trust here at this meeting. So welcome, Bruce. I'm sorry I can't see you, so Sorry about that. I'd like to make a suggestion that the Affordable Housing Trust submit a grant application to this committee for $250,000 to be transferred to the Affordable Housing Trust for future CPA qualified expenditures to be voted on at the upcoming October town meeting. I've made this suggestion generally in years past, but I'm making it again now. If there's not an Affordable Housing Trust member present, please communicate this to the trustees. So please share that, Bruce, with your fellow trustees. Lastly, I'd like to comment on the Robinson Chapter 61 withdrawal project subject on the agenda tonight. To date, the Conservation Commission and Planning Board have voted to recommend that the town exercise its right of first refusal and purchase the lots. As the committee's liaison to the Grafton Land Trust, I can report that their board voted last week to recommend this purchase. They also voted to have asked, accept, and hold the conservation restricted required by CPA, as the trust does on the abutting Robinson parcels purchased in 2019. For the numerous important conservation reasons this committee has already discussed, I encourage the committee to also vote to recommend its purchase for open space and open space conservation. There are much more than sufficient funds available to cover the $300,000 purchase price. This is what CPA funds are for. Even after its purchase and the suggested Affordable Housing Trust grant, CPA funds will remain sufficient to fund several other significant grants this year and next, including the purchase of the last Robinson lots on Silver Lake, currently for sale. Respectfully submitted, Ken Holberger, Treasurer, Community Preservation Committee.
I apologize, I didn't have the chart that he talked. Do you want me to pull that up again?
Sure, that would be good.
Surcharge. If I can find
If you
it.
can get it.
I was looking at it.
John,
There we go.
John,
Yes.
if I may, I don't know if everybody saw it, but I just got an email from Stuart saying that the state is awarding the CPA another $20 million.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Did come through.
So I would imagine that that's going to affect our grant amount from the state. So that may be really good news for us.
It definitely is.
That is a good thing. I think the Senate included it in its budget, and I guess it's dependent upon the governor to sign it.
So the chart that's up is the one that Ken maintains and shows you guys periodically. It's of the surcharge revenue and the state match, and how we're doing with regards to the state, how Grafton is doing with regards to the state match.
And it's easy to see the early years we had a 100% match, and then 2008 that changed, and then 2010 it really dropped, and then it's kind of gone up and down, and the state has in more recent years adopted an annual stipend that they pass with excess funds. And so that's why the match has started beginning in 2018, increasing. But also, which is actually that they're pumping in considerable amount of money, because more and more towns are adopting CPA, which is adding more pieces to the pie. So even as they're adding, we're still getting a significant increase year over year. And then this year's estimate he has, and I don't know that it included that 20 million. So maybe that's why there's a little dip for 2023, because that's not included.
It does not include that.
Yeah, Ken created this.
So
Yeah, I would agree with you, John.
Yeah, Ken
So,
created the chart before he
I'm a poor substitute for Ken, all I can say. Any questions, anything I would be happy to try to answer. He obviously is the best person to do that.
I move we approve the treasurer's report.
Second.
Did I hear a motion?
Yes, Justin motioned that you approve the treasurer's report, and Paul did a second.
So I have a motion and a second to approve the treasurer's report. Any discussion? Not hearing any. I will go back to my cheat sheet. Sandy,
Aye.
Jim,
Gallagher, aye.
Brooke,
Brooke had to leave the room.
okay. Paul,
Scarlet eye.
John, Justin,
Aye.
I declare the motion carried.
That's all right.
Next item is the clerk's report. Minutes for April 13th, 28th, and May 9th.
Motion
have-
to approve.
I have a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, beginning Sandy,
Aye.
Kristen, sorry, Jim,
Aye.
Paul,
Brooks back in the room.
Brooke.
Aye.
Paul, did you say aye? I just heard you say
Scarlett,
Brooke
aye.
is back in the room. John, aye. Justin,
Aye.
declare the motion carried. Now we want to welcome Bruce Spinney from the Affordable Housing Trust for an update, and welcome, Bruce. I don't know that I will be able to see you, but thank you for joining us tonight.
That'd be a good idea.
I invited Bruce to go over if they had any immediate needs, any medium or long-term needs that they wanted to share with us. And then also for us to discuss how we can help them. And I think one of the things that would include is what Ken just proposed is doing a warrant article for funding of $250,000 for potential projects, not specific projects that they might have. So Bruce, I'll let you have it.
Justin, can you turn your monitor like you did before so we could see him?
Yeah, I just gotta rejoin the meeting
Oh.
on my computer and I'll do it. It'll take 2 seconds.
He'll be up and running in a minute.
If Bruce is speaking, we can't hear. I cannot hear
Do
him.
you want, you know what, if, do you want to sit here at mine and then I'm just taking minutes.
Camera break. Bob, you can't catch me on camera?
Thanks, Justin.
Why don't you sit here? Justin, you take yours back. Why don't you sit here?
Well, we
Or you
can't
talk.
see you either.
I know, that's because I have the video off.
The camera's focused on me. I can
Can't
move.
hear him. It's not
Yeah,
about
can you,
seeing him.
can you guys hear me? Because they
It's
Oh,
about
now we can
hearing.
see
We
you
couldn't
in.
hear.
They can't hear him. They want to be able to hear him, not see him.
Right, so you have to be at one of these mics, I think. Why don't you
Okay.
come here, okay? And you can sit here.
And my thought is, if we can't hear him, the other people
We're
Yeah.
fixing
And I
it.
don't-
We're
they-
fixing it.
they may have dropped off.
Bruce, do you mind just sitting here? Watch the cord.
I love
Just
technology.
don't send any emails while I'm not looking.
Fair enough.
Right when it works. And
Okay,
got the right attitude. It's hilarious. When
Hi, Bruce.
Jim, how pretty do I look?
Hi, Bruce.
Hi. Okay.
He wants a compliment,
Can
Jim.
everybody hear me?
I missed it.
Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Brilliant. Okay, so I would guess they're reporting on projects that the trust is currently undergoing. The major one is the grant program for the Upton Street GSX project, which my meeting tonight was supposed to be at 7:45. It actually was canceled because we didn't get the last edits from the GSX's council. So every Thursday we're kind of having a meeting to flesh out the final verbiage for the grant agreement, and this is for what would be about 123 units at the old proposed, or rather the DPW facility, the old DPW facility. What we're essentially doing, if you've been following some of our meetings, is we approached them when they had the bid in, when the RFP went out, probably a year ago now, and asked them if there was some partnership arrangement we could take to take what was the 10% requirement and move it to 25%, which of course is a pretty big opportunity for the town because it's an apartment complex. So as you hit that 25% threshold, all of the apartment units counts against our SHI, which will give the town a considerable margin for safe harbor. as long as the Pine Street project gets to about, gets their building permit this year, and assuming that they're in construction over the next 2. The other project we're working on is 25 Worcester Street, where we have engaged MHP Mass Housing for a grant, which they awarded to us, and which we're seeing the first pieces of now, where they're assigning an engineer to the project and go through some of the concepts for some of the things that we've discussed. What we're currently looking at there is senior housing, 65 plus, not assisted living, but more supportive living. So, you know, staff on site. There seems to be a pretty healthy market for it in the state. So we're taking a look at the property, making sure it fits, and then determining, you know, how large or how small we want the project to be. And in conjunction with that, we'll be hosting, you know, a variety of meetings as we handle some outreach there as well. We'll probably use MHP services to provide us with some consulting, so they send somebody to us that can handle a lot of the technical aspects of what we're proposing. And then we can provide some feedback, do some survey work and things of that nature for the site. The other piece that is more long-term, as the town develops an inventory pool of affordable apartment units, the trust wants to make sure we're in a position to start handling local preference, which is something the town has never been able to do in the past, as the trust has never been able to support it. Also, you know, we've never really had the affordable inventory in the past. But if you were to look at the amount of units that are coming on over the next couple of years, and perhaps some of the LIP programs that are in the process now, the town will have, you know, well over 100 apartment units that are in some degree of affordability. And now we're in the negotiation phase, you know, having a local preference. So, you know, local workers, municipal workers, especially teachers, firefighters, et cetera, may have an avenue to provide some affordable housing in town. So what we found in the past, especially in the single family market, where, you know, these are just deed restricted single units, they're typically even at, you know, a fair amount off of market value, are still, you know, overpriced for the members of the community that we're looking. Those are 3 main things we're working on. The grant app is a fairly significant grant. It will use the majority of our funds. And so I believe, I can't really speak for the trust on, you know, as far as the $250K is concerned, but I will definitely bring that back to them. It was something that, you know, we were planning on doing anyways. You know, we just haven't really discussed how would we apply it and what the grant would be for. But if what is Ken saying is correct, and that's supported by the CPC to move it forward, moving it over into our bucket, so to speak, pulls a lot of restrictions off it. Of course, it would be for affordable housing, but doesn't typically require a project to go before town meeting for approval, which is certainly something that, you know, we need to think about and be cognizant of when we're dealing with developers and the opportunities that are coming before us now. You know, as Scott Rossiter said at the meeting, you know, everybody there, of course, was in favor of affordable housing until you put a project up there. And then it becomes a separate matter entirely. So we have to be cognizant of that, and, you know, as we're moving forward with how we approach funding different projects. Was there anything else that you needed from me? That's kind of the high and low of the different projects that we're working on now. I think as we flesh out everything, there are going to be some other opportunities. There seems to be a lot of developers looking at a lot of parcels. Some are very conducive for build out, some are not. But as we're looking at those things, making sure that we can do things like rental assistance, mortgage assistance, or placement assistance, and the most important piece, which I think is handling our own lottery, which is something we definitely should do as we get into the 100 to 150 unit count. So, like, for example, you know, Jim represents the GHA, who has, you know, facilities in town with a fair amount of unit count, but as Jim can attest to, the weight limit on a lot of those units is pretty far out. So we can, you know, it's not quite the same type of program, but we can establish a program that's very similar with some restricted units to make sure that we find placement for people in our town first, and then of course, if we can't find any in town to put into those locations, then it goes to the broader lottery, and it goes everywhere. Which I think is important, especially as we're in safe harbor and some of these discussions become much harder to have. Because there's certainly the appetite for growing affordability once we're at our 10% threshold is gonna start to plateau. So we're gonna have to come up with, different arguments to make to, developers and townsfolk as we, look for funding and as we, try another project. Cause as y'all know, these projects have a whole bunch of steps. A project in the LIP process will come before the select board, go through that process, which takes months and months and months, flesh it out an idea, get, cohesion behind it, and then it goes to the ZBA, which is an entirely separate process. I think GSX project up on Upton Street is, it's a special permit process, which makes it a little bit more attractive to, the trust as far as a partnership is concerned, because town meeting explicitly said they wanted the density there when we passed the overlay district to put it in place. It's also been at town meeting a couple of times, manicuring basically the RFP process. So it's already had a lot of exposure from the town, so we feel very comfortable that before the planning board, this will be a good project and get to completion. As far as I know, I don't know how granular you guys want me to get, but the environmental looks to be in really good shape. It's what was expected, and it's what you expected. I can't tell you the particular chemicals. I don't have the report, but of course we were very interested as far as the partnership is concerned because most of the trust money is the front money and the soft costs. So it was very important that they weren't going to get into a situation that was going to go well beyond their budget, because the trust has no appetite to remediate environmental concerns, nor do we want any business with that. But it looks like it's going to be about what they thought and forecasts and what they had already budgeted for, which is a good sign. This means the company's got its act together and is realistic with its original investment, which is good because the soft money is most expensive nowadays. So, does anybody have any questions for me?
I have a question about the Upton Street project. So for your partnership with them, is there a dollar amount per unit? Is there a flat amount that you're negotiating? How is that financially going to work out, or are you still working on that?
No, we have a rough number. Originally, we were looking to partner with the town and go for a TIF, which people talked about, and this is a good 8 months ago now, I believe. The mixed use and residential kind of prohibits us from doing a TIF on the project. So we went back and said, okay, well, what's the total number that is needed? And perhaps there's other ways for us to recoup some money from the trust from the town, which has a significant interest in getting this project developed, as it, of course, puts us into over the 10% for our housing count. So we've been looking at the sewer, water, and then the local permit fees to recoup some of the money. So those are all in the process now. The grant size itself is 1.8 million.
I have two questions. The first is on the old DPW site. Have there been environmental tests on that site already? And the second question is whether or not you had a chance to look at the property that the Housing Authority owns by McHale Drive, as to whether or not you think there might be some additional building sites within the property that we own already.
Right. So the environmental was that they did some borings, they did some testings, and the preliminary results from our feedback from GSX is they're within the parameters that they had thought. So what they had budgeted for, what they expected to see there is what they saw there, and they anticipated it, which is good. McHale Drive, you're talking about on, kind of off the corner of Millbury Street and the set of lights there.
By Church Street.
And you're talking about the little bit of upland behind the already built apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I pulled in the driveway the other day after a conversation, and this is going to go nowhere for like nearly everybody who watched this, so if there's any way to share the location he's talking about on the screen. Oh, I have to do that because I'm on the computer, don't I?
Don't just Go. Best
Fire.
we can do.
Great. So anyways, I don't see something back there that's gonna be worth a developer's time.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think you can put the density in there, and it's a little hilly, which, you know, indicates that it's probably gonna be a significant amount of site work. Site work's the bane to one of these projects. So,
Okay. Well, thanks for checking that out for me. I appreciate it. I went and looked, but I didn't know what the hell I'm looking at.
Condominiums?
And this is West Street
no, it's,
behind the Catholic Church.
No.
what's the road that?
McHale Drive.
Worcester Street, by that set of lights, there's an
Church Street.
apartment right on the corner. Is that Church
Millbury
Street?
Street. It has the lights. Millbury Street does.
Right where the water district is,
Oh,
on the
Providence.
corner.
That's Millbury Street.
Thank you. And you go past it, and then on the left there's a yellow set of apartments, and behind it there's another set of apartments that the GHA
Oh, okay.
administers.
Okay.
Behind that there's a little bit of upland back there. But when I say upland, I mean dry, usable land. But it's pretty hilly and shelfy. So you know, getting access to it would be pretty prohibitive, expensive wise.
And just curious on when you're doing your
Okay.
planning and doing your estimating, how are you dealing with the escalation that's going on right now and all of the issues with scheduling?
Can I just ask whoever the speaker is to speak into the microphone because we can't hear you?
Sorry about that. So this is Sandy. I'm just wondering, just because right now the escalation in construction is really out of control, and it's, you know, if you're talking about, you know, 12 months, 18 months down the road, you may be talking anywhere from 10 to 25% increase in costs.
Yeah, so some of the considerations that we've made on the trust side is if, should the project become unfinanceable, so to speak, which I don't think is going to happen. There's a fairly significant contingency budget in there, and it's a dense enough project that, you know, as long as it's on its way within the next year, I'm pretty comfortable that it's gonna meet most of its goals. But we have surety inside the project, so they're giving us a position with the land. So if they fail and they move on, we can recoup our expenses. So we own the rights to all the plans, everything that they're proposing would come back to us. You know, I would say there's risk in every venture and everything that we do.
No doubt.
Even on the municipality side, but for this, where it's at, I think they're willing enough to work with us, and we brought enough to the table to support them, that it's a good partnership, and, you know, we're building in all those sureties for
It's
us.
yeah, just a strange time right now.
Yeah, there's, you know, even fencing, if you were to go price fencing right now, as like a one-off thing, you know, you're doubling what, you know, you would have budgeted for a year ago.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I know,
And it's
'cause I'm
random.
in the process of replacing
it's-
a fence.
It's
There's a
random
lot of
too.
ridiculous out there,
Yeah.
but at that unit count and what they're looking to do, and the cost of money, there's a significant margin that they can put in there to cover everything.
Is the 1.8 million, because you don't have that much money, is the town, is there hope
do.
that the town will
We
have
actually have
some,
1.93 million, currently.
so you do have,
Yes, we do.
okay.
Can you, just so I understand, because I'm not sure, I think I knew what John was saying, but, so we're gonna get 25% as affordable out of that Upton Road project, and you're gonna give them $1.8 million for the 25%. So that's what, 30 units?
Yeah, about 33 units.
So how does that work? They're gonna build them, plus you're gonna give them 60 grand per unit?
No, it's a grant, so it's upfront, so it will cover construction design, survey work, permitting, things of that nature. And we're offsetting their upfront costs, and then they're restricting the units that they're already building. So they're gonna pull them to a certain AMI percentage that we're negotiating.
So they're gonna be it's not gonna be a lesser unit like it's typically?
No, it will be the same, like if they have a 2-bedroom in there, it will be the same size, same everything, except it will be significantly cheaper to the
By how
occupant.
much though? I mean, how do you
well,
figure? I guess that's where the 1.8, in
They-
my head, I was figuring you could, that's 60 grand per unit, but you're saying, is it gonna be more than that? Do you know what the average what the average unit's gonna cost?
So I didn't bring that with me. It depends on, of course, the 1 and 2 bedrooms. But if I were to pull the numbers, I actually had these at town meeting, but I don't have that.
But those are
slide
they
with
gonna
me.
be rentals?
Yes, they're all
Right,
rentals.
so. I guess, I don't, all right.
So the town gets credit for.
And is it permanent, or does this have a 25-year
No,
sunset?
they're all permanent.
Yeah.
So it's all perpetuity.
But the town gets credit as far as the 10%.
Yeah,
For
and that's
everything,
just
'cause
how
it's rental.
DHCD kind of
Yeah,
handles
that's just,
apartment
that's math.
complexes.
That's a math thing.
So DHCD requires that they be at 80% of AMI, which is the adjusted income for the town. Once it's at that position, you can negotiate further, like you're seeing in some of the LIB proposals that are coming now. And then there'll be a mix of 1 and 2 bedrooms in there too.
Yeah.
So we get to decide the ratio of how many 1 and 2 bedrooms, and of course our preference is 2 bedrooms. Because our housing protection plan tells us that we need more 2 bedrooms than 1.
But
We
we,
need everything, so it's
Right.
not, but we'll be able to kind of scale that so we can say, how much of that 1.8 is going towards independent unit costs.
And how many units could they build anyway?
They could do the full 123 and then at 10%. But our bylaws don't require them to actually do anything beyond the 10%, and they don't actually have any.
No, without doing any affordable, how many could they have done?
123.
Okay,
123 total units.
that can be permitted without affordable units, without a lip, without anything.
That's correct, yeah. Because when we put the overlay district there, we followed the, what we use in South Grafton, essentially. So it's basically, as long as you put 10% affordability in there, when I think the thought at the time was, if you're building that density, then you're kind of neutral as far as our SHI is concerned. So if you put 120 in there, you're gonna get 12 units, and then, as you're tallying up how many units we're growing at each year, we're staying at that 10% threshold.
So, all right, but you keep saying with the 10%, so they'd have to do 10%
They do, yes,
because of the overlay?
yes.
You can't build anything without a 10%?
Well, I mean, you could request a waiver, of course, but yeah,
Bruce, can I ask you a question?
sure.
Have you ever given any thought to doing anything like broad scoped with the town and saying that requesting a waiver of all permitting fees for any buildings that you may bring into the town?
Well, typically,
You know what I mean?
speaking, for our 40R and other zones that we've kind of already done this in, the sewer department usually kicks back quite a bit, and the town for, like, say, Pine Street has done a pretty good job of offsetting permit fees. So in these, I don't think anybody in town, when we were putting a lot of these fees and a lot of these things together, really anticipated a 300 unit, division, subdivision, or rather apartment complex. So for, most of this stuff is all third party. So if you were to look at the permit costs for just the GSX building, it's about $1 million. And 400 or so, of that is, local permit, but then there's the additional money that you're going for third party review. So we don't actually have an in-house service that can handle the permitting for that. So it's one of the things that we were trying to claw back some money from. And I think the town has been very accepting of it. I know the sewer department has. The water district seems to be very receptive to it. I think based on the argument that this particular project is going to do a couple of things. It's going to give us 35 more units that are apartments, or 33 that are apartments, and it's also going to put the town in permanent safe harbor for what I would anticipate would be about 6 years. The new census data is coming in. We're starting on the new housing production plan, which I guess I should have mentioned before. We're looking to recertify and renew it, and that's going to start in July, which will be a pretty comprehensive look at the new census data. It will also probably reflect some of the new MBTA laws that are looking to roll out in commuter rail communities, which will have a significant impact on the growth in those areas over the next 10 years, especially if the housing boom continues. So I think what was anticipated around the commuter rail area is probably an appetite for about 1,000 units. So your density in those areas is gonna be 15 per acre by right. There's a lot of nuance to it. There's things that the towns can do to kind of mitigate some of the affordability concerns and stuff like that, but until I see it, you know, in writing and in practice, you can anticipate another 1,000 units there.
I think so just to go back to so if they have to do 12 units affordable, we're really only getting 18 for the 1.8 million.
And making the project
Okay.
viable, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And the other thing, Jim, why would you want to, I mean, I don't understand that argument that you're making. And I see it, and actually Bruce said it earlier about the fees that we get from water, sewer, and whatnot. I mean, that project over at Pine Street is what, $50 million?
I'd probably say 68
Okay,
million.
60 million. If these guys are asking for a waiver on a $500,000 item that they knew they were gonna have to pay, I mean, I don't see why the town should be giving him anything. I know we do.
What I was looking at, Brooke, was to see if there's anything that would help the EHT as far as funds that they may have to provide.
No, they're different. I mean, I can see giving affordable housing waivers on whatever, but to have developers come in and, they make a deal, I just don't know. I mean, I watched the selectmen's meeting when they were doing these lit projects, and a couple of selectmen keep talking about how they have an ROI and it's economic development because we're gonna get all these fees. And then when it comes time to get the fees, the people ask for waivers of the fees. So this is not the place for it, but it just, I don't know where that bubbled up from, that we should be giving developers doing $60 million projects.
I wasn't talking about developers. This was a question from someone who doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
But
I was just thinking about fees for the AHT.
Just
Yeah,
for
yeah,
some
yeah.
perspective,
Yeah.
that's a 40R district. So
Yeah.
the town and the state both incentivize developers to come in and do it. In that incentivization process, one of the ways that they can mitigate costs and get people to come in and do these projects is that. Now, I think in the current market you have now, they're gonna make enough money that it's probably absurd to say that you want to recoup some of those things. But that's a system that's in place, and that's what 40R is meant to do. This particular project up on Upton is nothing, but it's a partnership with the town, and if the trust is incentivizing this development to go forward and make sure it actually goes forward, that's why we're asking for some return. So
Thank you.
in the future, it doesn't really bother me what the select board does. If a company comes in, they're probably gonna anticipate the costs that are associated with building all those units. And the reason why they're gonna ask for 150 units is because the margins are there. And at that 150 point, they don't care if they're spending $900,000 on sewer and water hookups.
Yeah, that's why we shouldn't cut it.
Bruce, real quick, on 25 Worcester Street,
And I'm fine with that as long as that argument is completely separate from the trust approach
Yeah, that's
of
different. The trust is
getting
different.
to the point where we need to be.
I think Jim had one other question.
Brooke, I have a question on 25 Worcester Street. You received a grant from Mass Housing. Was this studies? I think I maybe missed part of it, that you were doing engineering that.
So we've done some preliminary engineering, some survey work. What they're doing is kind of focusing in on the particular thing that we asked them to look at, which was specifically just for senior housing in the density that would work on the site. So they're using their resources, and how they fund their grants and things of that nature is not the same as what we do. So they have all their own resources. They answer to a whole slew of different overlords, so to speak. What they did was they asked us to apply. We applied, made it specific, and we answered questionnaires that kind of filled in what the trust was kind of looking for, and they built a program for us that would help us understand what we needed from a partnership with a developer that was going to do a development for 65 plus staff assisted.
So it's more feasibility study. This is study and trying to figure out what's going to work.
Well, no, we know what would work there and what density would work there. This is going to be what makes it marketable and how we build a good RFP that's going to actually get a bid.
Okay, to get to the construction piece, that to work with a partner to make it happen.
Yep. And then what's
Okay.
palatable on the town's concerned, because of course we have to as well go to the ZBA if we're going to go beyond what's currently allowable there. Like,
Okay.
it's R20, so you can do maybe 8 duplexes depending on how you carved it up. if you all remember, I think 10 or something years ago, Ron Warwick actually proposed an article to do kind of just that, break it up into independent house lots and sell them in blocks, basically. And the town, of course, said no.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you coming out. It's waiting so long for us to get started.
No, that's okay. My meeting got canceled anyway, so if you guys want to have a chat about something else, we're all-
So one of the things,
Anyone else have questions?
yeah, just one of the things.
Well, I just, Bruce, I think that AHT with you at the head, you guys are just doing great work.
Okay, Jim, Paul
So
wants to
thank
say
you.
something now.
Okay.
Paul?
All right. From town meeting, some of the things that we talked about is trying to have a joint meeting, just trying to kind of clear the air, so to speak, with our two committees and try and find a path forward.
We can't hear
to
Paul.
work together. I'm talking right into the mic, so I don't know what
Can't
else
hear
I
you.
can do.
Go over to, is the mic on?
Joanne's mic works and Bruce's mic works.
Does this mic work?
Yes.
Paul, come over here.
Joanne's gonna enter into the minutes. This was the meeting of musical chairs.
I was just saying that, part of the discussion at town meeting was about trying to find a path forward with our two committees. And one of the ideas was a joint meeting. And I just didn't know if they had, I did listen to your last meeting. I didn't hear you guys really talk in any detail about that. But just want to put that out there as a idea, as a way for us to try and work together and figure out how we can best help you meet your goals.
Sure. Well, I think they're going to be very interested to hear what Ken had to say. So I'll bring that back. And I think moving forwards, outreach is going to be, something that I think we should focus on. I can't speak for what the trust is going to say, but I think there's an acknowledgement of where everything's at, and I think there's a lot of benefit for us to be fulfilling our mission, especially as we're rolling out these new projects, and there's more for us to do. I will say the trust has been more active than I've seen it in 15 years in projects that are actually coming to life, which is very exciting for somebody like me because, as we all know, these things take a long time to kind of mature, and even projects that you get your heart set on can take 5 or 6 years to come to fruition. I think now the opportunity is there to really take advantage of a strong housing market and what would seem like a willingness and an appetite to continue to develop some of these larger apartment complexes to tackle the housing crisis. So I think we're in a good position to do it. I think we can present that. I think it goes beyond just meeting with the CPC as well. I think, ZBA and the select board also need to be incorporated into those long discussions because, these things can get very disjointed and disconnected very quickly, especially if one entity is working on something that completely involves another entity further down the line, and matching up those things can be very difficult. And I think from a developer's perspective and a partnership perspective, which what is really the LIP is, they need to have a reasonable expectation of an outcome. So there's got to be cohesion through the whole process, because it's tough to come up with a deal, whether it's us, the CPA funds and CPC, and the select board encouraging the growth or sponsoring increased growth or lowering AMI or doing any of those programs that we're talking about, and then have it go further down to ZBA and have them be on their own. So, the resources have to be there to help. So it would behoove us to learn how to move forward with it. So
I would just add in the slim chance one project ends up being not ZBA's purview, the same thought to me applies to planning board, but majority of affordable housing projects I think would end up being under ZBA as far as
well, that is certainly something we should look at.
Yeah.
Because the ZBA has a very specific role.
Yeah.
And that that is what and how we interpret our bonding law as it currently sits.
yes.
But if you look at Upton Street, and the appetite was there. Now I know there's only one person or one company that actually bid on it,
Right.
but that was an attractive piece. having an overlay district there. Now, I think we need to go a couple steps forward and make sure we refine that 10% number that's required and look
Yes.
at the 25% number, and have an instrument in place that's similar to the LIP process in 40B, so
Yeah.
the town can, exercise control. There's also a lot of fine tuning in there, and I apologize for getting too granular, but the when we interact with some of these folks, the bylaw gives us a skeleton to it, but there's really no staff in place that handles kind of how they interact with DHCD, how they handle monitoring programs, how they're handling AMI, local lottery, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So where the trust really falls in that particular place is we have the resources available to us to do it, and handle it, and we're statutorily able to do it outside of the purview of town meeting, which means we can monitor the programs on our own behalf. And I think the reason for that was, if the town were to change its mind in 5 years and there were people involved in a particular program that we had rolled out, they could have the potential to leave them pretty high and dry. So I'm guessing that's what it was built for. I wasn't there when they incorporated the law, or part of that discussion, but it certainly feels like from a lot of the experts in the field, so to speak,
Yeah.
that's why the trust has the autonomy it does. And the town adopted it without restricting any of those autonomy, which is what most towns do anyways. So I'm excited to work on the next piece of this. So especially with having a couple hundred units of in our inventory count in town.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
I just crushed making your meeting 20 minutes longer.
That's all right. It's good.
No, you gave us a lot of good information, which we appreciate.
The meeting where you don't make it go 20 minutes longer, there'll be no
Fair enough.
It's 20 minutes just to get the meeting going.
So I guess if you need me
I mean,
for
it's
anything
only been
else,
about
any
half
other
hour so
questions, just send them. I will report back to the trusts and let them know what you guys had mentioned, and then we'll set up the formal communications and make sure we move it along.
Excellent.
Okay.
Good.
Bruce, we
Thank you.
always know more after you leave than before you came. And that's just your way of being able to fill people in. Thank you very much.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. All right.
Thank you.
Your spot back.
Thanks, Bruce.
We can always swivel it around. Sorry, Sam, I'm leaving it.
That's okay.
Bye.
I'll be on an island over here.
Moving to the next item, Springtown meeting recap. We need to discuss,
Can't help.
sorry,
No, go ahead.
there are two projects that were approved at town meeting, South Grafton Elementary School Accessibility Project and the UUSGU Accessibility. Do I have volunteers for one or the other?
John, I'd be happy to continue working with the UUSGU.
The church, okay,
unofficially
so
was
Paul,
helping them prior to town meeting anyway.
And I don't mind liaisoning with the school department if no one else wants to fight me for it.
Oh, no.
I was afraid it was gonna come to me, so you're on.
and
Was that Justin?
Yes.
Justin's going to do South Grafton. Okay, thank you. And also, we need to discuss Article 37, which the town meeting voted not to make a designated affordable housing trust member,
Right.
A designated member of our committee. So we need to discuss that and discuss ways to, and I think we've had a couple of conversations already, how we can make CPC more accessible to them, improve communication. We've Ken suggested a warrant article. Paul suggested doing joint meeting. So if other people have other thoughts about what we can do to work with the Affordable Housing Trust, but also just any discussion about the warrant article.
I would just say that, we kind of outlined some things that we could do in our presentation at town meeting. And I think we're already following those. We have a Affordable Housing Trust agenda item on this month's agenda. I think that should be a standing item that we have every month, like we've discussed in the past. Also, I hope and I think, Jim, you're willing to do this, to make sure that we are sending representation to their meetings. And as the Housing Authority member, you would be the most logical person to fill that role. And I know you've reached out. I've seen you online reaching out to do just that.
Well, I'm hopeful that there's no, I'm on 5 committees, and I'm just hopeful that they're, the meetings and things like that. So like if they meet on Thursdays, I've got problems with that for 2 of the committees that I'm on. So I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, because I think that, if they had membership on this committee, it might make things a little bit easier. But at the same time, the only one who's eligible to reappoint this year is our treasurer. And if I'm turning around a town meeting and saying, you should have the select board appoint someone, and then stand up here and say, we need to get Ken Holberger back, I look like a horse's ass. But that's really the way it is. But I think the input that we got from Bruce, I thought, was incredible. And if they would welcome having someone bring back to them what we're doing, I'd be willing to do that. But I'm just concerned, again, about the meeting times. That's my only issue.
Yeah, and I do believe their meetings are on Thursdays. It's either the 3rd or 4th Thursday of the month.
It's not the 4th, we're the 4th.
Yeah, so it must be the 3rd.
Well, is participation at the meeting live necessary, or is it something that can be viewed after the fact by any member?
Yeah.
And maybe it's what about a rotation? What about a CPC member is assigned a specific month? So,
Yeah.
and then all the members on CPC are, have time with the trust.
That's not a bad idea.
The other possibility is just to have a look from their standpoint, is when they feel they need input from the CPC and request representation for that meeting. Because if they're there and they're talking about their 3 buildings going on, the last thing they want to have is time taken up by someone telling them what we're doing with the weights and measures thing,
Yeah.
So I think it maybe as needed or as requested might be something that we may want to discuss with them.
Yeah, I would say that I think having an Affordable Housing Trust member, not necessarily Bruce all the time, but he's more than welcome to be the one to come at our meeting, is probably a great path forward. If the Affordable Housing Trust wants one of our members or rotating anything of our members there at their meetings, I think we can certainly make that happen. I don't know offhand what one of us going to their meetings is going to provide them, on an ongoing basis.
I think it's more helping us to understand
Yeah.
what it is they're doing and what their needs are.
And I'm more than happy to have,
As a
us attend their meetings if that helps them, but it would be helpful at least to know which one of us is best to do it, or for what they're looking to get out of us attending there.
Right.
And that's my overall thought on that.
Joanne, could you just summarize what Justin just said?
Yes, Justin doesn't know that having one of us attend their meetings is necessarily going to be helpful to them. Although it was said, nobody from CPC comes to our meetings, right? So, that they must feel there's some help there. But it seems that what I'm hearing from folks is that having a standing item on your agenda, like we did for the Robinson property, and I think that, Justin, that was your suggestion, if I remember correctly, yours and Ken's.
It might have been mine, might have been Ken's, I don't remember.
But about, that we don't know when this land's gonna come out of chapter, just always have it on the agenda, then you'll never be behind the 8 ball if you always have the Affordable Housing Trust, an Affordable Housing Trust update as an agenda item. One of their members can always come, and if they're meeting on the 3rd Thursday of the month, that's where they're gonna say, hey, we need to get to CPC and let them know about this. And it's just a week later that they come and provide you with whatever information that is. Make sense?
Yeah, and if, I still think there's value in us being aware of what's going on with them. And we don't necessarily have to participate as far as, presenting what we're doing, because they may not have any interest in that.
Yeah.
But for us to be aware of what they're doing, I think is important. I've been attending the last couple of months. I don't have an issue with, it's certainly a lot more convenient if it's on Zoom.
Yeah.
But I don't mind doing that. I think maybe we should get some input from them as to what they would like to see.
And I'll speak louder so that Jim can hear me, but I don't disagree with us attending. Like, I think that we can get stuff out of attending their meeting. My thought on that point was just, what are they going to get from us attending their meeting?
Right. I'm in agreement with you on that.
yeah.
It's probably not a lot, but we can learn a lot.
And not to throw a monkey wrench.
I don't know if I'm interrupting anyone because we can't hear you real well, but can I just tell you that I've been working and talking with Eric Swenson, and he's come up with an idea. What we've been looking at are the number of people who are on waiting lists for the Grafton Housing Authority to see if there's anything that can be done to maybe select some of those people that are on there and move them into some of the affordable housing ideas. The other idea that came up is I was talking with him about people who are current residents right now that are in the middle of an eviction because of back rent that they owe. And we may want to see whether or not the Affordable Housing Trust may want to work with monies that are available to help some of these people with their back payments that they owe, similar to what we did with the apartment people with the COVID, and to try to keep them in the housing. So Eric and I have been working together on that.
That's great.
Yeah, I can see the second one. I don't know about the first one. The people can't even afford, the whole affordable housing units aren't affordable.
That goes to what Bruce was talking about with the lottery, that
What-
there has to be
Can you just push that over a little?
some structure in place for the town to be able to do that legally.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to piggyback on what Joanne was saying, because as you were saying, or the Robinson property on the agenda all the time, I was thinking, well, you should have recreation on there all the time, or you should have historical. But really, an agenda is to let people know what's going on. So when you have an item like Robinson or affordable housing on the agenda all the time, and then you're not going to do anything, it's really not, I don't think, the right thing you should be doing, because you put an agenda out there and it's to say, okay, we're going to talk about affordable housing, not that it's on there all the time, or Robinson or recreation or anything. It's just, you're supposed to give notice to the public. And
What if it's under
basically
project updates?
well, if you're really going to talk about it, I mean, if Robinson, and it's already over, but if Robinson had been on there for 2 years because someday it may come up, and then it came up, we'd have to put it in an agenda. It's kind of disingenuous to the agenda, because
Yeah.
you want to notice people when you are actually going to talk about
But
something,
it
not
could-
to your convenience.
We
that you
do
don't have to-
project updates all the time.
Yeah. But
And if there's nothing new to offer, then we just say that and we move on. But it's there so that if we
yeah,
have something-
all right. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to go to the mat for it. I just think it's not what an agenda's for.
I will kind of agree with Bruce on Brooke, sorry, on this, that I think having it on the agenda every month is good, but I would hope or expect that they'd also come every month and have at least a little bit to say, that even if it's nothing really changed on our end yet, we're still working toward X, and that would be useful. But if it ends up being that we have it on the agenda for a year and they come twice, that starts to be a problem.
Well, we can revisit it.
Yep.
I just think it's important that we start to have more dialogue between our two committees.
Agreed.
And, if we continue to go to it, we can offer insight even if they aren't here from us having been there. And, the fact of the matter is that we, unlike other projects, they don't have a project per se, and we're giving them money every year. So we should have a mechanism other than once a year hearing, what they've done. We should keep in contact with them so that we know what they're working on, and we don't run into this situation that we ran into over the past past few months, that we have a direct connection with each other.
You know, I have no problem at all if you want me to contact Bruce before all of our meetings and find out if there's anything that they need to know about the CPC, that we can garner the information and get it over to them.
Yeah, we could
That's
offer
good.
a workshop like we had brought up. More than willing to do that. That might be good for the select board as well.
You want to do that?
Move to the next question.
Is that the way you
Robinson
want to
property.
go? Jim will contact the Affordable Housing Trust before our meetings to see if they need to come or provide an update on anything?
I think that's good.
Okay.
But at the same time, I can find out from them if there's anything from us that they need. And we
Right.
can respond in like.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for agreeing to do that.
I don't mind doing it. I just don't, going to a meeting on Thursday. I've got 2 Thursday meetings as it is.
Yeah.
And I don't want to step up there and then say, no, I don't want to do it.
Okay.
totally
My
something.
crowd here in the room is getting restless. Can we move on to the
Okay.
Robinson property? Are we good?
Jim will have you do that. Thank you. Yes. So the next item is Robinson.
If I,
That we do have adequate funds to purchase this according to the report that Ken gave us,
yes,
and that we should consider sending a letter of support, voting and sending a letter of support to the selectmen.
I think Justin wants to make a motion.
Okay, Justin?
I'll say something and then I'll make a motion. It was listed.
You get closer to the microphone, Justin, please.
It was listed as 300,000 for both of the two properties that they're selling. It is not the entirety of the property during the thing. They did a split of the thing, so there's still a little bit more on that side of the road. But 300,000, and my motion would be that the CPC sends a letter of support to the select board in favor of the town exercising its right of first refusal.
So it's 300. Oh, wait.
300,000
I'll
total.
second.
So we have a motion and a second to send a letter of support to the selectmen supporting the purchase of the Robinson parcels.
Under discussion?
Any discussion, Jim?
Is there any way that Justin would allow adding to that letter that if they are interested as well, that they consider filing with the CPC for whatever is the next town meeting to actually make this happen? So we can all support it, but if no one comes and requests the money, we're not going to do anything about it.
Well, I think, Jim, if my math's right, I think there's gonna have to be a special town meeting.
That's what I was thinking.
Because you have to act within, I think,
120 days.
120
Ex-
days.
Days.
But still, someone has to recommend or someone has to request the $300,000. We can't do that.
The selectmen would do that.
Right.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying is in the letter, make sure that they're aware that we're expecting a request for that funding from them.
How about this as additional wording in our letter, that the CPC notes that there is adequate funding in the CPA funds available for the town to support the purchase. That way if the select board feels they have money elsewhere and they want to use it, they could, but that we're explicitly calling out that we have the money.
I still say that you've got to have something in there that's telling them that somebody has to actually apply for it.
They should know.
They should know that.
They should know.
Oh, sure, everyone should know. But if everyone's sitting back and saying, well, I think the Conservation Commission's going to do it, I think the trust is going to do it, you can throw your hands up in the air all you want, but if no one actually makes an application, it doesn't get done.
All right, I'll put that
How
in.
about
We'll put
we
that in there.
How about we anticipate receiving an application for funds from the select board?
I have a question though.
Okay, I'm talking. How about it?
Thank you for your
Can I-
explanation, but I'm still confused. So there's 2 properties, but they're only offering 1 for sale?
So-
Is that what you're saying?
Maybe I can clarify
Thank
this. Wait a minute. Hopefully, can you hear me? Or do I have to all join you over there?
Can you hear Sandy?
You have to sit actually right there.
Yeah. So just based on what came in front of the Conservation Commission, they had 4 lots. And they're talking about 2 lots now that is up for sale. So they've gone through the permitting process to get a house plot, a house location approved through Concom. So there's 2 of those lots, that's what's up for
And
sale.
they're on the lake?
They're near it. I believe both of them actually, I'm trying to remember, I think both of them actually abut it.
Got it. Yeah.
They abut wetlands, which I think is associated with the lake, so it's right there. And so whenever anything comes out of 61A, it comes in front of the Conservation Commission. I don't know if it goes in front of planning too. And so we wrote we had a vote and wrote a letter to say we recommend that the
But they have a
selectmen pursue it.
purchaser, right? They have a buyer?
Yes.
They have a a valid PNS.
TNS, okay.
Yeah,
So there are 2 lots, each for 300,000.
No,
Total.
Total for the both.
3, yes.
both of them.
And how big are these lots?
If
I want to say they're like an acre plus, just because I'm trying to remember, just because there's wetlands and
Are they
riverfront.
buildable?
Oh, yes.
Yes, they
Oh,
are
no
buildable.
problem at all.
So it's 150,000 for lake, on the lake, but over an acre. That seems
Right,
pretty-
but you're not on a beach.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
You're backing up to wetlands that then go
Going
to the lake. Yeah.
So a lot of mosquitoes.
Or I think it might be, it's right where the river comes in and
It has
so,
a view of the lake, though?
haven't been out there to see where the house
Still
is.
seems cheap.
That was my gut reaction.
Yeah.
What's that?
That seems like short money for that.
And then there's 2 others left.
I think it's interesting. They're coming right in. I don't know if you remember, Ken always said the 4 lots will be between 600,000 and 700,000.
Why are we not interested in the other 2 lots?
Because they're not for
They're
sale.
not
They're not
sale.
for sale.
They're not up for
They
sale.
don't have a PNS yet.
Okay.
So
Thank
I'm
you.
surprised the developer didn't come in and get all of them.
So I believe that there's a motion made by Justin.
Any further,
What?
I was saying, any further discussion
Oh,
so we can vote?
who's,
Um,
Paul seconded.
roughly that, Paul.
I have a motion and a second to send a letter to the selectmen recommending purchase of the 2 Robinson parcels and acknowledging, anticipating an application from the select board seeking funds, available CPA funds to purchase this if indeed they don't have other funds earmarked to purchase this property. Did that
Sure.
I think that
get
covers
what
it.
you were trying to say,
Sounds
So,
good enough.
Jim?
Yep.
So roll call. Sandy,
Aye.
Jim,
Gallagher, aye.
Brooke,
Aye, here, yes.
Paul,
Scarlet Eye.
Stevens, I, Justin.
Aye.
Declare the motion carried unanimously.
So I'll draft a letter and send it to you, John, for review.
Yes, thank you.
Works for us.
Okay.
As I say for everyone.
Okay, we're moving on to project updates. Paul, any updates on town records?
So I sent you a email, John. You may not have seen it yet. And I believe also that Candy sent an email copying both of us. We're looking to meet with the Historical Commission to talk about a process for them to validate the historical significance of the documents that you would like to preserve. That's a process that we only recently determined needed to be done.
That's
so-
only if it's not town owned. That's my understanding.
Not true.
No?
Nope.
So we would
Okay.
like to meet with the Historical Commission, and we're hoping that you could help set that up.
Okay. The Historical Commission meets on the second Thursday. So I would be happy to put that on the agenda. That meeting will be the next meeting, June 14th.
I will let Candy know. Thank you.
Okay. And I'll just tell Dave to put Candy on the agenda for this project so that that's taken care of. And if it doesn't work out for her schedule, then we can get to it in July, but I'm sure we'll work something out.
Yeah, and I'll plan to attend too.
Okay. Gravestones, Rich is not here. Grafton Common, Paul.
So I just heard back from the contractor yesterday. They will be on site next week to set up the supports that are needed for them to do the bandstand rehab. So they'll be doing that, and then on the 7th, the carpenters will be there to begin work on the bandstand. So they have to do all of the the work on the foundation and all the structural work, and then paint it before they do the roof, because they don't want to get paint on the brand new roof. And they want to get all of that work done before they start on the elevated walkway, because you won't be able to get around it once you dig up all the turf. And again, same reason you don't want paint on the new brick and all. So there's a process and an order to that process that they'll need to follow. We're also working on the backflow preventer. There's still one issue with regard to the shutoff valve that is located just outside of the common, close to the north entrance. It's broken, so it can't be shut off, and the piping is copper, and copper can't be crimped. So I've reached out to Paul Canoyer to see if there is another shutoff valve that we could use. It will end up involving more than just the common, which will have to notify any impacted businesses and or residences. It would only be a short period of time that it would need to be shut off for while they do that work. So we're in the process of figuring that out. If we don't have that option, there are some other things that we can do. One thing is he was talking about is flash freezing the pipe so that it wouldn't be able to have water coming out while they were doing the work, and then they can thaw it out afterwards. There is a significant expense. I think he said it's probably about a $2,000 expense for that.
Or do they just put an insertion valve in?
I don't know about insertion valves, so maybe I should have you talk to them.
I mean, it's not cheap, but it'd be cheaper than $2,000.
Yeah. At any rate, the easiest thing would be another shutoff valve if they have one that can do it. But it does involve some coordination and communication before that could be done. So that'll be going on, and then simultaneous, there'll be work going on the repairing of the posts and fencing that was broken during the many motor vehicle accidents. We're now up to 4, as I think you're all aware. We had a big Walmart truck come and take out another 3 up by the library on that corner near the statue.
Is there any past accidents?
I've never recalled this many accidents on the common in such a short period of time. It's only about a year.
Will this newest one, the Walmart truck accident, would that be done in the same round as the others that we're looking at already and haven't, or is there another round of waiting for insurance, then ordering, then waiting for stuff to come in?
Yeah. This will all be covered by insurance, so it won't have to involve the contractor that we have on this project. The town uses a vendor called Munitech to do insurance type repairs, and obviously there's going to be insurance money on this since it was a big Walmart truck. But there's a first you got to get the insurance money, then there's also ordering the stuff, and the granite takes a while to come in, but the town should be able to handle that separate from this project.
Okay.
So we'll still have part of our fencing missing when we're all done for a short period of time. But things are moving forward. There's a lot of interest in using the common, and unfortunately, we've tried to accommodate some of them, but it's just when the construction is going on, Some of the events would be actually happening while construction is actually being done, which isn't really tenable. It could interfere with the work that they need to do, and plus it's just a safety concern.
Safety first, that's easy.
For the public. So, we're trying to work around that. I know, for instance, there's a big Pride event that's going to be going on. It's going to be on Jordan Boulevard. Originally, they were wanting to do that on the Common, so I think that was a great compromise. I think that'll be a perfect place for it.
Just to say out loud, it's not confirmed that it's going to happen on Jordan Boulevard until the select board votes to close it.
Yeah, that's right. That was supposed to be on their agenda this past Tuesday. Yeah. So we're moving forward. It's delayed from what we thought it was going to be. The reason for the delay, by the way, was that we didn't get the change orders completed soon enough. They had originally thought that they were going to be able to start at the beginning of April. We didn't get those change orders taken care of until April 19th. By that time, the carpenter had to keep his people working, so he moved on to another project. So we've had to wait until they finish that project to begin ours. And like I said, it's a process. Things have to be done in a certain order. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense and can cause delays and other issues. So we are moving forward, though, and that's the important thing.
And even more importantly, they figured out the problem with why the lighting isn't going to be turned on. Did you want to bring that up?
We figured out that there's a wiring inspector in the town that they had been trying to reach National Grid and had been unsuccessful. And of course, they hadn't communicated that to us, so we didn't know. But Cindy Ide got involved and figured it out and has gotten them involved. They've been on site. I don't believe it's functional yet, but it will be soon. And there's definitely been movement, which we haven't seen in like a year. So
Months. Yeah. No, that was great that Cindy was able to help out with that. We appreciate her getting the log jam unstuck.
yes,
Cindy's the bomb.
I agree.
Yes, she can get it done. She is the Nancy Hazen of the 21st century.
There you go.
Thank you. Weights and measures. We just have received a bill, and I just approved it today for the electrical work that was done, and we're now just waiting. We met 2 weeks ago, and we're coordinating moving the weights and the actual box. So that hopefully by the next meeting will have taken place and that project will be finished. Jim, Lions Club?
I got a letter from Dennis Perrin. There's some problems there. The request for estimates went out for the bathroom project and for the septic system and the bathroom buildings approximately 2 years ago. This estimate was used in our request for funds from the CPC. We then went for the bids with the contractors and awarded the septic system contract to Earthworks. That work is currently being completed. We received the building plans, which were designed based on the bathroom that was built at Nelson Park, and sent them to the 4 contractors for bids. Due to the price increases and the availability of building materials, the bids came in higher than expected in our estimates. This has created an estimate shortage of $75,000 to complete the building. We will have a better estimate of the shortage after the septic is completed. We anticipate requesting additional funds from the CPC to complete the bathroom. I had a talk with Dennis after this. And essentially, what we told him that he really needs to do is to make another request for the October town meeting that the money that was earmarked for the building under the article under phase 2 and phase 3 can be used for the septic system when that was inspected. And then when they said that it was for a larger area, the septic system had to be redone and enlarged. So that required more money. So I told him to go ahead and use the money that was initially set aside for the building because it was part of the same project. So having done that, he, as he says here, they're about 75 grand short now, and they will be coming forward with a request in the October meeting so that they can finish up that project with the current estimates for the lumber and so forth.
Okay, thank you. Justin, anything from Cisco?
Nothing since last meeting.
Okay. Recreation did send an email saying that there's a punch list of finished items to finish before that's all finished. Joanne, did you want to add anything to that?
No, just that they're still working on that list and Jen's hoping they'll get done soon.
Okay. Weed abatement, did they
Yep, so the
get past the insurance?
They did, yep. Everybody's in agreement. The contract's gonna be signed and they're gonna start work within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, good. I didn't see it. Maybe I missed it. Was there an update for North Street, 95 North?
No, there was not, and I apologize. I forgot to ask Kristen for one, but I did see Leah and Jen out walking the property with somebody when I was driving to work one day, so
Okay.
there's
Okay,
activity
so they're
going on. I think last I remember, you guys went out to bid, right?
But it's been out to bid, and now they're doing public outreach. There was a
That's
call
right,
last
yeah.
Thursday. There's one going to be in person coming up. I forget when, maybe next week or something. So they're doing 3 outreaches, and so they're definitely active on it.
I forget that you're part of that. I apologize.
Don't
I always think
worries.
Jen.
I saw something posted on social media that seemed to indicate a lot of interest in a dog park up there. So,
Has there been a lot of, well, I'd say a lot, but a decent amount of public participation in these public meetings so far?
So there's been one, and I missed it, and I haven't talked to anyone since then.
Okay.
So I really don't know yet, but yeah, it was. I know it was on Concom's Facebook page and that kind of stuff, and I was
yeah, I want to go.
I was
I meant to
working.
go
I
the
do
first
want to
one.
go to one of them.
I could have that night instead, but
I'll have to look for the date.
Okay. Anything else on the North Street? And then the last two, the UUSGU, Paul is going to be the contact. South Grafton will be Justin. And I'm sure after this meeting, Joanne, your next step is to send them email with or letter
Grant
with
agreements, yeah.
the contact
Yep.
names and information.
Yep.
One thing about which we didn't discuss, and maybe we did, and I just am not remembering, with both of those projects was signage, and I don't feel like, or maybe I think we did for the Unitarian. There's not appropriate there, but for the school, that's a different thing, and I'm not real sure how that's going to get handled.
I thought that I thought Amy talked about a plaque of some sort.
yeah,
That-
Yeah, we did.
I vaguely remember that there was already a plaque there, and that they were Jay was in agreement to put something on the plaque or next, a separate plaque or something to figure out to thank the CPA and the CPC in this town for funding it.
We don't know.
Well, the sign that is there, the sign that's there is more, this playground is age appropriate for X age children. And it's from the companies that made the equipment. It's not this is the South Grafton playground, and thank you for all the parents that worked. It's a sign that's telling you who's appropriate.
Yeah.
So there is not a sign there that says anything about South Grafton, that it's named for Doreen Parker, any of that.
Well, I
So
think the fact that they've named it for Doreen will mean that there'll probably be a new sign.
Yeah, I came
Okay.
out of the meeting with the, and I'm feeling today that Jay and Amy both understood what we were looking for. We didn't expect a big giant, flashing sign that says, donated by the CPC, but something that just acknowledges that, you know, we funded it. I'll review the meeting tapes to make sure that my memory is accurate, but that was my comprehension of what we talked about during the meeting itself.
It doesn't even need to be a separate sign. They could
Yeah,
incorporate
right.
it into the sign they're already planning.
Exactly.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, and I guess I still need to ask Sandy,
Aye.
Jim,
Gallagher, aye.
Brooke,
Aye.
Paul,
Scarlet Eye.
Stevens, I, Justin.
Aye.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending tonight.